Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Active Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro, para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. I'm sorry that I didn't get it up going till just a few minutes ago. Then I always forget one step, another step, whatever. But Purim is now over for us. Purim's just starting in Jerusalem, and Purim is commemorating a battle of about 2,300 years ago. Major battle in the land of Persia. And of course, Persia is modern day Iran. And we had a war start this past Shabbat. And the war started, the first strike was number one, on Shabbat. And this Shabbat has a particular name. We have 4 special Shabbats during the year. And this is the last of the 4. It's called Shabbat Zakor. And it means the Shabbat of remembrance. And I'd like to read to you out of the book of Deuteronomy. This is the Maftir reading. And it's actually linked to another passage that we have in Shemot or Exodus chapter 17, where the people of Amalek came and attacked the Jews on the way to Mount Sinai as they left Egypt. And the passage starts in Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 25, and it goes verse 17 through 19. Now, in the Torah service, this, the weekly Torah service, whether it be on Shabbat or during the middle of the week, you have designated readers that are called up. It's a great honor to be called up. And the last reader is you have read through the entire portion, okay? But then you have what is called the Maftir. Now, the Maftir is the one that will be reading the Haftarah, okay? They're the reading from the prophets. And generally, on most Sabbaths, what the Maftir will read is the last 3 verses of that week's portion. But on these special occasions, special days, as well as on the festivals, we have special readings that go out of the regular weekly portion. And so, in this case, the Maftir would read this passage from Deuteronomy chapter 25. And I'm going to start verse 17. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you were coming out of Egypt, how he met you on the way and attacked your rear ranks, all the strategies all the stragglers at your rear, when you were tired and weary, and he did not fear God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord your God has given you rest from your enemies all around, in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance, that you will blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, you shall not forget. And literally, there is a custom of writing the name Haman on the bottom of your shoes. Now, the reason is that in the book of Esther, in chapter 3, we are introduced to Haman the Agagite, or the Agagi, Haman HaAgagi. Okay, and so the name comes from Agag. Now, Agag, by the way, the Haftarah reading for Shabbat Zakor is going to be from 1 Samuel. And it deals with Saul's command to wipe out the Amalekites. And Saul fails to do it. Okay, very interesting twist on it. Saul is the first king of Yehuda, or first king of what's called the double monarchy, the kingdom of Yehuda, as well as what would become the northern kingdom. And he's from the tribe of Benjamin and from the family of Kish. He fails. It's very interesting because the hero of the heroine, of course, is Esther, but the hero is Mordecai. And Mordecai, we are told, is from the tribe of Benjamin and from the family of Kish. It's very similar to the first Adam, the second Adam. And so I think that it's very significant that the war was moved up. It was moved up actually based upon American intelligence. They have been tracking Khomeini, where he was going, and he actually didn't believe them, but they had been tracking him. And since all of the mounting tension in the weeks before, as America was sending tremendous amount of ordnance and supplies and equipment and personnel to Israel, and not only to Israel, but to all of our bases in the entire Middle East. There was quite a bit of talk and chatter that was going this way, that way, and everything. And so the tension was really heightening, and Khomeini was being shuttled from this place to that place to that place. And so the chance to get him was nominal. But and they, because it was Shabbat, because it was in the daytime, and the attacks always began, the starting attacks always began in the late hours of the night, that they felt secure enough to bring all of their top leadership together in one place. And of course, it was a fortified structure. And so the attack was moved up. Now, the United States was not in the position or had the task, and certainly Israel did not dictate what these tasks were. There was an overall planning between the two, that Israel would take out decapitate the leadership, while the United States would destroy the air defenses. And so the very first attack, not the second, not the third, not the 12th of the 200, but the first attack, took out Khomeini and 40 of the top Iranian leaders. And so I think that this is significant that it falls on Shabbat Zachor. On that day, when we read, remember Amalek and Haman the Amalekite, Haman, who descended from King Agag, was typified in Khomeini. I'd like to read to you. I always say this in my own words, but this time I decided to ask a question to Google, and I asked, why Haman is associated with the Amalekites, and secondly, that what personalities have had the label Amalek in modern history. And I'm just going to read two sentences out of this. The designation of Amalek is used to signify an enemy that represents pure evil, invoking a biblical mandate to eliminate this threat. The classification is often used to characterize those who seek the destruction of the Jewish people. And by the way, you can find that. That's an article on Wikipedia. I wanted something that was generic, not something that was pro-Israel, pro the war. I wanted something just totally generic. And so it was a day of fighting. And today in Israel, it very definitely is a day of fighting. Now, I've talked to people in Israel every day since the actual war began, and the attitude of everyone that I've spoken to has been a it's been a long time coming. And thank God it's here. And this has to be dealt with. Iran has to be dealt with. And in fact, I was told today that there's a lot coming out that Israel pressured the United States into this. And what I was told today was very interesting, that the biggest pressure, even though they did not come out in the public and say this, but it was well known in Israel, was Saudi Arabia on the United States, who feared Iran, and there was uh, a tremendous thing that Iran was constantly attacking Saudi Arabia. And lately they have been attacking their process to remove salt, the salt from water, and which is critical to their land. They are land without water. The death toll, the last that I understood was that there were 10 Israelis that had been killed. You might have seen that a hospital, I want to change that, 10 Israeli Jews that were killed. There was a hospital that was hit. It happened to be an Arab hospital and not a Jewish hospital. There I know people that were in the blocks. If you saw the apartment building in Tel Aviv that was destroyed, a friend of mine's daughter is best friends with the daughter of the family that lived in that house. The mother and the daughter were in Athens on vacation, and the father was at home. He went to the shelter. He comes back, and his apartment is blown away. But thank God you can get another apartment. You can't get another life. And so it's going to take a while. We're going to see a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism rise up out of this. We're going to see where the American government is under attack, that the Jews, a nation of 10 million people, are able to control all the nations of the world, and that everything, all corruptness and everything in the world stems from the Jewish people. And if you believe that, then I'm going to say you don't know Hashem. You do not know Hashem, and you do not know the Torah. And so we, at this point, we wait, we watch, we thank God that this step was taken because it was coming. It is a time to be extremely diligent. There are a number of calls that have come out from Iran for the cell groups, the terrorist cell groups, to strike out. And we had an incident a few days ago in Austin that has been confirmed as a terrorist activity associated with the war. There have been a few other incidents, but so far it's been very low key. And so just don't let your guard down. Be diligent. It's not a time to go to large events and where groups of people would be, and always be on the watch. All right, we're going to move forward. I hope that you had a great Purim and that you had a special blessing from the hearing of the Megillah, the Megillah, the reading of the scroll of Esther. We're going to go back to where we were. Let me see here. All right. I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint from last week. We're going to just hit a couple things. And then I have another PowerPoint for tonight. Okay, so here we have what we started with 3 weeks ago. This is two scriptural dilemmas. How do we get a king from David? Okay. And we've worked on that. We have not ended that discussion. We've been laying down information week by week. And then the second question, how does the Davidic king sit in the temple building specifically? Okay, so we're going to go forward to that second question. And here we have all right, Yezkel 37. And David, my servant, of course, David was the king of the United Monarchy, the United Kingdoms, and he was from the tribe of Yehuda. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd, and they shall also follow my judgments and observe my statutes and do them, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Yaakov, my servant, in which your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell there, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. And this, by the different commentators, Radak saw it explicit as David is the Melech HaMashiach. Mezudot David, the future redeemer from David's line. Malbim, the Nasi, as the Messianic king. Abarbanel, the Davidic monarchy, returns in the redemption from the Targum Yonatan, which is the most ancient of all of these, paraphrases explicitly in Messianic terms, and in Midrashic support, Sanhedrin 98b interprets many David prophets messianically. Rambam described the Nasi as a king like David, and we find that in the Mishneh Torah, in the Hilkot Melachim. Rashi was the only major commentator that opposed the Messianic interpretation. He saw it as to say the Messianic interpretation would be wrong. He saw that the Nasi that sits in the temple as being from the tribe of Levi. All right, so here we go to chapter 44 of Yehezkel, the first two verses. Then he brought me back the way of the outer gate of the sanctuary. Okay, and what we have is Hamikdash, okay, the temple, which looks toward the east, and it was shut. Then the Lord said to me, "This gate shall be shut; it shall not be open, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered in by it. Therefore, it shall be shut." Okay, and so we showed last week. Give me a second, and I want to show it again. Okay. Now, this model was built for me several years ago, and let me stop sharing. Okay, this model right here was built several years ago by my good friend Nick Scarpinato. And at the time that he built this, we saw the facade of the temple as being like this. Let me show you the difference. We know now that it was like this. You see the difference between the two. Okay, so and the one in my left hand, the white one, it is like a great big square block. Okay, but in this one, it's more like an upside down T. And so we know that this is correct. Okay, but one of the neat things about mixed model, let me take the little altar off in the platform, is that this model, I can take the top off. Okay, so this is called the Aliyah. Okay, and the Aliyah is literally where the upper floor. Now, if you'll notice, and also these will be down. We know about this high, but there are little slots here. You see these slots? Those are offices. They're called Taim in Hebrew, and there are 38 of them, okay? And they're in 3 floors, going all the way down to the bottom, but it actually comes up only about halfway, if quite that high. Let me show you another mountain. Now, where that passage is talking about, you see here how low it is. Here is the halfway point between the two, and down here, or the Taim. And the Taim, actually, it's very interesting. They are not a part of the temple building per se. Now, what I'm talking about is the Kodesh HaKodeshim and the Hekal. So we have three major elements and then an added element. Our three major elements are the porch. That's called the ulam. Okay. So this area here, right here, the front. Okay. So in this model, it would be this. This is the ulam. That's part one. Part two is what is called the Hekal, the Hakodesh. Okay, that's the holy place. That's where the table of the showbread is, the menorah. That's where the altar of incense is. Then we have two parochid, two veils, and behind that we have the Kodesh HaKodeshim, where in the first temple, that's where the ark sat. There was no ark in the second temple. Now, going around it, but actually they are built not into the building, but they lie on the building. It's complicated to convey without illustrations, but the 38 offices are in 3 floors, okay? 3 floors, and they're small offices. Now, where there is a door going into the Taim on the north, and there is a door on the south. It is going to be directly across. If you see here, you see inside right here, this building, this gate is half the size. This is called the Sha'ar HaUlam, the gate to the porch. And then this right here is called the Shor HaGadol, and that's the gate into the building where the ark and the other three pieces of furniture, the menorah, the altar of incense, and the table of the bread of the vase. Okay, now there is, and you can't see it. I don't have a model that would allow you to see it, but there is a let me see, I might have a model. Give me a second. No, I don't. Okay. So you have a gate, a door. It's called a pishpash in Hebrew. It means a smaller door that takes you into the Taim. Okay, and one on the north. And then you have to go all the way around to exit. The only problem is there's a pishpash to the left of the Shor Hagadol, the gate that takes you into the temple building. It's locked. And so it's locked based upon, and I'm going to show you a picture here. Give me a second. I'm going to go to Midot chapter 4. And I'm looking for a picture that shows you the Taim a little bit. All right. We've got a couple pictures that work. All right. This will be good. All right. So give me a second to get my projector up. Okay. Well, you'll probably wonder why it takes me so long to do this. I have to do it after I start Zoom or it won't pick up. All right, so here's our picture. Okay, well, let me show the book first off. Okay, it's in Hebrew and it's the Tractate Midot. Okay, and from the Kahati Mishnah, but it's illustrated by the Temple Institute. Okay, so here's your temple building, and see, we have a bottom floor, okay? And these are the Taim. Now, they actually enter, the door to enter is right here, would be right here, okay? That's on the north. And then there is another door on the south. Now, you see there's 3 floors, okay? So here, just saw it. This is what it looks like if you came in the north door. That would take you down to the bottom floor. This would take you up, and they use ladders to the top floor. Now here we are at the porch. Okay, and here what they're doing is they're opening this gate in this picture. Okay, but here is the wicket, the pishposh, that takes you into the Taim. Okay, and here's the southern one. And see, all of this is the porch. This is a little knife room down here. Here's the gate to the porch right here. And so this is and you'll even notice, oh wait, yeah. Uh, all right. Pretty sure that right here is uh, the quote from the book of Ezekiel. Okay, so that's where we are. All right, so let me stop sharing. And it says, the Lord said to me, this gate shall be shut, it shall not be open, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it, therefore it shall be shut. Next verse, as for the Nasi, here's the word Nasi right here. And it's double in the next word. He, being a prince, shall sit in it to eat bread before the Lord. Okay, and so this is where we have le'echal lechem. Okay, to eat bread, lifnei Hashem, before the Hashem, and he shall go out by the way of the same. Okay, now the problem is that the Messiah is from the tribe of Yehuda. So how, when, first off, he is, if he's descended from David, allowed to sit in the Azarah. That means your inner courtyard. However, the temple building, in fact, from the altar going in to the temple building, all of that is restricted as an area, an area that only Kohanim can go into. So the question is, how can a non-Kohen, how can the Messiah who's from the tribe of Yehuda, how can he sit in that location? He can, I mean, the sit he can do. He's the only individual in the world that is allowed to sit in the Azarah, not even the high priest, none of the Kohanim, certainly no one else. But he, the Messiah, descended from David. Okay, but he's sitting in an area that no one can sit. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're going to explore. I want to read a passage to you if I can find. Uh-huh. All right. I'm going to go to 1 Samuel. And this is where David is on the run from King Saul. Now he's been anointed as the future king, but at this time he's not had a coronation. Let me find my passage here. All right, this is in chapter 21 in 1 Samuel, and I'm going to read this from a Koran Tanakh, okay? And I want to thank Edgar Ramos for this. Edgar called me, and in fact, he sent me some material that we're going to look at in a few minutes, in chapter 21. And I'll put this up here so that you can see the text, and we'll talk about it. But this is a very interesting passage, and all right, let me enlarge it a little bit. This is where chapter 21 starts. And he arose and departed, and Yehonatan. Wait. And Yehonatan went into the city. Then David came to Nov. Now, Nov is where the Mishkan was, or the tabernacle, following the destruction of Shiloh. Came to Nov to Ahimelech, the Cohen, the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid of meeting David and said to him, "Why art thou alone and no man with thee?" Okay, so we know that David is going to be there by himself. And David said to Ahimelech, the Cohen, "The king has commanded me a business and has said to me, let no man know anything of the business about which I am sending thee, and what I have commanded thee. And I have dispatched my servants to such and such a place. Now, therefore, what is under thy hand? Give me for." Okay. "What is under thy hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or whatever there is." And the Cohen answered David and said, "There is no common bread in my hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women." And David answered the Cohen and said to him, "Of a truth, women have been kept away from us always when I am on a journey, and the vessels of the young men are holy, although it is a common journey. How much more today when there will be hallowed bread in their vessel?" So the Cohen gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there, but the showbread. This was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in its place on the day when it was taken away. Now that tells us something. That tells us that, first off, that the bread, let me stop sharing real quick. The bread, there's a miracle that's associated with the bread. It's going to be placed into the HaKodesh on the Shulchan Lechem HaPanim, the table of the bread of the face, on Shabbat. They take out the old bread, okay? And you have to remember that there has to be continual bread on the table before the face of Hashem, okay? So the bread that they are removing is being taken out. That's done on Shabbat. So we know this is a Shabbat. There is a miracle. This is the miracle part, is that the bread remains fresh all week. Okay. And I mean, it's very, very famous that the bread remained fresh from one Shabbat to the other Shabbat. It was as fresh as it was on the Shabbat that it came out as the Shabbat 7 days earlier that it went in. And that is the bread that is being given to David. Now, I find it also interesting that he asks for 5 loaves or whatever you have to give me. And I see this number 5 continually coming up with David. I'm not going to make a point of this because I don't have a point to make. But when he goes to kill Goliath, he picks up 5 stones. Anytime that we see things are going to be reoccurring, we want to look at it. We want to examine that. Okay, so let's go back to our text. And so, all right. And it says, before the Lord to put hot bread in its place on the day when it was taken away. Now, a certain man of the servants, and it goes on. Now, it does not say that David ate the bread there. It is saying that this bread, by the way, is the only item that is eaten within the Azarah proper. Okay, so buildings that are joined to the Azarah, such as these buildings like here, and here, they open to the Azarah, and in the end of the building that is nearest what is called the Kel, the common place. Okay, so it'd be there on this side, on the northern side, it would be here. Okay, the building at in this end that they can cook and they eat, they enter to eat, so forth. The only thing that is eaten in the Azarah proper is the Lechem Papanim, which is divided among the Kohanim that are coming on duty and the Kohanim that are going off duty. Okay, so it does not say in the text that David ate the bread there, but that possibly is a precedent for what we see later on in Yehezkel. Okay, so I want to thank Agar for that. He brought that to my attention, and I thought that is where we have a biblical precedent. Okay, now, so this is exactly what we're working on. Okay. All right. So let's look at this particular slide, and then we're going to go to the new set of slides we have. Okay. All right. Where Judean kings could not go. Only kings descended from David may sit in the Azarah. Only Kohanim are allowed in the Ezra Kohanim. Now, there are 3 exceptions that we're told in the Tractate Kelim. I'll show you that real quick. All right. Ezra Kohanim, the court of the priest, this is Kelim 1:8, is more sanctified than this, for Israelites may enter there only at a time when they are needed for laying on of hands, for slaughtering, and for heaving. Okay? But for any other purpose, a non-Kohen is not allowed there. All right, this area includes 11 cubits east of the altar with its ramp, the slaughterhouse, the 12 steps to the temple building, the porch, the ulam, the HaKodesh, and Kodesh HaKodeshim, and the 38 Taim. All right. In the Talmud, we're told a king descended from David can sit in the Azarah. However, a king from David is from the tribe of Yehuda, and this disqualifies him from even being in the Ezra Kohanim, much less the temple building. Now, on lineage, the mother determines whether one is Jewish or not. The father determines which tribe. You cannot switch from one tribe to another. Okay. And so this would be a very important point as we go along. All right. Now, let me stop sharing and we're going to go to another PowerPoint that I put together today. Right, need to bring it up. All right. Now, this is, we're going to look at two different things. One is from the Pseudepigrapha, and Pseudepigrapha, by what it means is false writings. Actually, number one, it means that the author frequently will take the name of a biblical character like the book of Enoch. First Enoch, second Enoch, and so forth, were not written by Enoch, the biblical character, but the writings were under that pseudonym. And so they are very, very apocalyptic, but they're not scripture. Okay, so I want to show you this, and a lot of the things that come out that people say are going to come, they're taking from the Pseudepigrapha. Another place that they take from is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, next week, we're going to look at the material from the same resource. I'll show you the resource in a moment that deals with that. This deals with the concept of a Messiah from Judah, or from Messiah from David, and another Messiah that's from the tribe of Levi, specifically a priest. We're going to look at the various texts. Now, do not use the Pseudepigrapha for anything except in seeing some of the different views of that day and period. We do not build what we believe based upon the Pseudepigrapha. That's very important, nor the Dead Sea Scrolls. We base what we believe based upon the Torah. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit from here, from the Pseudepigrapha, and this will be the question of a Davidic Messiah, a Levitical Messiah. This is the book. Edgar, actually his wife Adrienne, I think, took this picture today, and she sent it to me. This is the book that Edgar had called me when he talked to me about David in the showbread. He also read some material from this particular book that he had, and I asked him to take pictures of it and send it to me. Okay, but it's called The Method and Message of Jewish Apocalyptic. It was written in Great Britain. I'm basing that on some of the spellings of English spelling rather than American spelling. But this is by D.S. Russell, and it came out in 1964. All right. So I have word by word. I did not change any of the words. I want you to remember several things as we go through it. First off, this is going to be a Christian writer. So you have to put that into the equation. All right. But the time was to come when once again, by the way, this is where he starts talking about the Levite Messiah. Okay. But the time was to come when once again men's hearts stirred with hopes that at long last the Messianic age was about about to be realized, and that God would raise up one who would be the instrument of his purpose. There are indications of this during the period of the Maccabees and Hasmoneans, who were descendants not of the house of David, but of the house of Levi. In particular, the hopes of the people came to be centered in Simeon, brother and successor of Yehuda Maccabeus, or Yehuda HaMaccabi, and Shimon. By the way, he actually took the title Shimon Hanasi. Okay, he is the surviving brother of all the family. In the year 142 BCE, Shimon was acknowledged by the people as leader and high priest forever until a trustworthy prophet should arise, and which is 1 Maccabees 14:41. In other words, he was appointed leader and high priest with hereditary rights, the first Maccabee to be so recognized. The blessedness of this reign is described in characteristically messianic terms. In first Maccabees, I scanned it and I obviously didn't do some corrections, 14:8 and following, and they tilled their land in peace, and the land gave her increase, and the trees of the plain their fruit. The ancient men sat in the streets, they communed all of them together of good things, and the young men put on glorious and warlike apparel. He made peace in the land, and Israel rejoiced with great joy, and they set each man under his vine and under his fig tree, and there was none to make them afraid, but neither here nor elsewhere in Shimon referred to as the Messiah. I want to mark something here. All right, so let's mark that. Okay, you see that phrase? We find that phrase 3 times in the Tanakh. Okay, and so let me stop sharing. I want to read this to you. All right. This will be, I believe, in the book of Micah. All right. In Micah or Micah chapter 4, verse 4. Now, let me read what comes before. Now, it shall come to pass in the latter days, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains. You find the same thing in Isaiah chapter 2. And people shall flow to it. Many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Yaakov. He will teach us his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. For out of Zion the Torah shall go forth, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples, and rebuke strong nations afar off. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Now, based on the context of those passages, we can very easily say, without hesitation, that this is the Messianic kingdom. This is the time that people call the millennium. It is a time of 1,000 years of peace. Next verse, but everyone shall sit under his vine and under his fig tree. No one shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And then it goes forward. Now you can see that the phrase that we see here in this passage, it is being applied that Messianic times are here in this writing. It is looking at the Hasmoneans that came as being a new priesthood and being a new. Now, I'm going to come back to talk about what we mean by new priesthood there. But all of this messianic implications are being applied. All right, but neither near nor elsewhere in Shimon, nor elsewhere is Shimon ever referred to as the Messiah. That's important. The writer of the book of Jubilees also declares that the future power in Israel will lie not with the house of David, but with the house of Levi. God will give to Levi and his seed greatness and great glory. He will make them great and unto all ages, and they will be princes and judges and chiefs of all the seed of the sons of Jacob. They will speak the word of the Lord in righteousness, and they will judge all his judgments in righteousness. That's Jubilees 31, 13 through 15. This same hope is expressed also in the Testament of Levi 8:14, which reads, a king shall arise in Yehuda, or better translated, out of Yehuda, and shall establish a new priesthood, which will be called by a new name. R.H. Charles. Now, R.H. Charles was the first major English translator of the Pseudepigrapha. Charlesworth, who came after this book was published, came out with another translation that is more frequently used by today's scholars. But R.H. Charles, in 1964, when this book was written, he was the leading expert on this. All right. R.H. Charles took this to refer to Yochanan Hyrcanus. Okay, so let's briefly. Now, I want to mention what we're going to read here. There's going to be much that I do not agree with. Just because I'm reading it, just because I'm presenting it, doesn't mean this is here for you to accept. This is here for us to put all the evidence we can from the ancient periods to be able to try to answer our question, to see if we get some clues along the way. So we have the Hasmoneans, we have the Maccabean War, we have the subject of what Hanukkah is about. And it's as the war begins, Yehuda HaMaccabi, the oldest of several brothers, is going to lead a rebel army against the Seleucid Empire, which is sending massive armies against them. He's killed. His brother Yochanan is killed. His brother Yonatan is killed. The last remaining brother, Shimon, finally destroys the Acra in Jerusalem. He basically defeats the his brothers had all been contributing to the defeats of the Seleucid armies and so forth, but Shimon is going to be the first one that emerges and that they have peace. Now, as I mentioned, he is a Cohen. Okay. Now, this is going to say that he's not from Zadok. That's incorrect. All the priests that served in the temple were from Zadok, and so he doesn't declare that he's king, but he declares that he is the Nasi. His son, he has a son. I can't even tell you the name of his son because he is only going to reign, I think, for it's either 2 months or 2 years, very short period. And he was insane. He dies. His brother takes over, who's Yochanan Hyrcanus. Okay. So Yochanan Hyrcanus will be spoken of here, and he's going to extend a Hasmonean empire. Now, he will be declared king and priest. Okay, so we have in this one a picture, but he's not from the tribe of Yehuda. Okay, so let's remember that as we go forward. I'm going to go just to the end of the slide, and then we'll go to break. Okay, R.H. Charles, let me share it with you. R.H. Charles took this to refer to Yochanan Hyrcanus representing the Hasmonean house. The new name would then refer to the title priest of the Most High God, anciently borne by Melchizedek, Genesis 14:18, and revived by the Hasmonean high priest when they displaced the legitimate Zadokite priesthood from office. All right, I'm going to make comments here. And then we'll go to break. Okay, so A lot of people will say, "Oh, Melchizedek's footman in the book of Hebrews, that is a new order, a new priesthood, that God has replaced the priesthood of Aaron." That's crazy. Okay, absolutely crazy. God gave an eternal promise to the household of household of Aaron, and it is never replaced. Okay, as long as there are men upon the earth, it will be that priesthood that are serving in the temple. And whether they use for the majority of their information from the Pseudepigrapha and also from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so again, we do not use this to determine what we believe. What we use is the Torah, and the Torah is applied by the legal authorities of Sanhedrin as halakha. All right, we're going to stop here, and we're going to go to break, and so we'll be about 10 or 15 minutes.
Shalom, mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Activac Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro, para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom.
All right. I have several announcements. Usually I do announcements at the beginning, but basically I forgot to do them before we started. So first thing, I want to give a couple prayer requests. I want you to be praying for Grayson Jeffords. And I have a good report. I talked to his father the other day, and Grayson is doing much better. But continue praying, okay? He has severe cancer, and please be praying for him. And Barbara DeCamp, that you'd be praying for her. She has pneumonia. She has cancer all through her body. Please be praying for her. Okay. And so also that you be remembered, her and her husband and Justin Hotz, who Justin's mother passed away, and Barbara is his aunt, and his father. They're in a time of mourning. Okay. All right. Now, if you are liking what you're hearing, please hit the like button. Also, share it with a number of people or one individual, and follow us on Facebook. On YouTube, subscribe. Now, on YouTube, there's a little notification button. It's, I think, a little bell in the corner or whatever, and you can click on that, and it'll notify you. When it'll ring a bell and let you know that we're about to go live or coming back. Okay. And so all of those things. Now, major, if you, at the end, we're going to go into questions. Please put your comments and your questions, and we'll go through them. And I am really enjoying seeing everyone that is available, that is present at the time. And I love the questions. Now is the time that we earnestly start preparing for Pesach. And so start making your plans, doing your preparations, and we're in full swing here. We started on getting ready for Pesach about 3 weeks ago. Last announcement is be diligent and safe in the places you go and the things that you do. We are in a time that our country is at war, and we know that there are many individuals that came in across the open borders, and there is a danger. So be as wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. All right, and we're going to go back into our slides, and we'll go through. Now, there's going to be quite a bit of reading, and as I mentioned, I literally put everything in that was in this text. Okay, I did not try to go through and just pull out things that I chose, because what I want you to be able to see is a scholar's view of how that the Messianic passages in the Pseudepigrapha were written. Now, next week, we're going to go into the Dead Sea Scrolls and look at that, and then we'll pull it all together. And I think that you'll somewhat be surprised by some of the conclusions that I've made. That doesn't mean that you would agree with them, but nevertheless. All right. Okay. Now, we'll pick up here. The same hope is expressed also in the Testament of Levi 8:14, which reads, "A king shall arise in Yehuda, that are out of Yehuda, and shall establish a new priesthood, which will be called by a new name." R.H. Charles took this to refer to Yochanan Hyrcanus, representing the Hasmonean house. The new name would then refer to the title priest of the Most High God, anciently born by Melchizedek. Genesis 14:18, and revived by the Hasmonean high priests when they displaced the legitimate Zadokite priesthood from office. Okay, we got to stop here. Okay, you had at the time of Solomon, at the time of David, you had two high priests. You had Zadok, who was descended from Aaron, and Abimelech. Not Abimelech. Let me see. I've got to look it up. Abimelech. Basically would be Abimelech. He also is descended from Aaron, and but when David's old, one of his sons tries to grab the throne, and so the commander of the army, Joab, Abimelech, the also Abimelech, yeah. He also sides with this proposed king outside of Solomon, and he is restricted from serving as a Kohen, okay, in the temple. Now the Ezekiel, he is descended from Zadok, whereas Yirmiyahu, also a Kohen, is descended from Abimelech. Okay, and so you had these two houses, but all the priests that serve in the temple, including the Hasmoneans, descended from the Zadok line. Okay, okay, so let's go forward. All right, T.W. Manson. Now it's going to list all these different scholars. You won't know who they are. Don't worry about that. Just we want to see what the different arguments are. T.W. Manson, however, has argued strongly that the new name refers rather to sons of Zadok, in other words, to the Zadokite priesthood founded by Solomon. If this is so, then there is no reference here to Hyrcanus or the Hasmonean house, and the passages seem to be in harmony with the possible beliefs of the Qumran Covenanters in the same connection. But whatever the interpretation or the passage may be, there is again no mention here of a Messiah. Of significance for this study are several passages in the Testaments or the 12 patriarchs where reference is made to the tribes of Yehuda and Levi together, Levi being accorded the more honorable place. As the text shows, the text now stands, allusion is made to the coming of two messiahs who will apparently stand side by side in the coming kingdom, one from the house of Yehuda, one from the house of Levi. An examination of the relevant passages raises a number of very difficult problems concerning the dating of this document, and also concerning its composition and authorship, which is in fact a Jewish book with later Jewish and Christian interpolations, or whether it is substantially Christian in the form in which we now have it. And that is going to be something that we need to speak about. Many of the texts were altered, it is thought, okay? There's debates about this. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. For me, it's not that hard of a thing because I take the Pseudepigrapha and I read the Pseudepigrapha to see what were the different views. It doesn't mean that those views are correct. I also want to see the phrases like every man sat under his vine and under his fig tree, how those phrases are used. We'll find that in other texts. There is an example in the book of Yochanan, John, where the man, let me read this to you real quick. In Yochanan chapter 1. Okay. I'm going to start verse 43. The following day, Yeshua wanted to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We found him whom Moshe in the Torah and also the prophets wrote, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Yosef." Now, I do not believe he's talking about the Yosef that we read about in Matthew 1, okay? That was betrothed and then later married, full marriage, to Miriam or Mary, okay? But it means the Messiah, son of Joseph. Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Yeshua saw Nathanael coming toward him, and he said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile." What does he say? He said, basically, this man is a tzaddik. He's a righteous man. He follows the Torah. And so Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Yeshua answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Now, if you stop and you think about it, wow, that's like somebody saying, "I saw you by the fire hydrant," okay? Or "I saw you, standing on a porch," okay? "I saw you under a fig tree." And so I know from that you're a righteous man. What Nathanael understood is he was saying, "I saw you in the resurrection of the righteous. I saw you in the Messianic kingdom." And that all of these phrases were coming up a lot. Now, let's go back to the text because we've got a lot to move through and the time is short. All right. According to R.H. Charles, the historical background of the book is the period of the Hasmonean house in the 30 or 40 years preceding the breach of Hyrcanus with the Pharisees. Yeah, the breach of Hyrcanus it's spoken of in the Mishnah. And he finds ample evidence throughout the Testaments for belief in a Messiah of Levi. In only 2 cases, he claims is any reference made to a Messiah of Yehuda in the Testament of Yehuda 24, 5 through 6, in the Testament of Naphtali 4, 5. These, however, represent first-century additions when the hope of a Messiah from Yehuda reappeared after the eclipse of the Hasmonean house. Charles therefore recognizes the hope of a Messiah from Levi as alone original to the text. G.R. Beasley Murray, however, claims that the juxtaposition of the Messiah from Yehuda and the Messiah from Levi is too deeply rooted in the fabric of the book for either element to be discarded. He argues that Christian interpolations apart, the book is essentially a unity in which 2 messiahs are presented, one to act as king and the other to act as priest in the coming kingdom. Such is the exalted view of the Hasmoneans held by the author, that the priest is given precedence over the Davidic king. In other words, what he's saying is that the Levitical Messiah has a higher status than the Davidic Messiah. Okay? Again, I'm not saying that's what we believe. This is what's being presented in those books. He rejects Charles' claim that reference to a Davidic Messiah or later Jewish interpolations, but supports his claim that a Levite Messiah belongs to the original text. He reduces Charles' references, however, to two passages, whilst omitting that only one passage sets this forth without any ambiguity. This passage is Testament of Reuven 6, 5 through 12, which reads as follows. And this is very interesting. "Therefore, then I say unto you, we will be jealous against the sons of Levi." And where you see the parentheses, these basically were added by the author here. "For God will avenge against the sons of Levi and will seek to be exalted over them. But you shall not be able, for God will avenge them, and you shall die by die an evil death, probably by an evil death. For to Levi God gave the sovereignty, and to Yehuda with him, and to me also, and to Dan and Yosef, that we should be for rulers. Therefore I command you to hearken to Levi, because he shall know the law, the Torah of the Lord, and shall give ordinances for judgment. He shall sacrifice for all of Israel unto the consumption of the times as the appointed high priest, of whom the Lord spake. I adjure you by the God of heaven to do truth each unto his neighbor, and to entertain love each for his brother, and draw you near to Levi in humbleness of heart, that you may receive a blessing from his mouth. For he shall bless Israel and Yehuda, because him hath the Lord chosen to be king over all the nation, and bow down before his seed, for on our behalf it will die in wars, visible and invisible, and will be among you as an eternal king. In Dijon, I don't know who this is, but he's going to come up several times in here, however, gives a different interpretation to these verses. In his book on the Testaments, he suggests that the words in verses 11b and 12, following the phrase, for he shall bless Israel and Yehuda, are an additional note referring back to Yehuda, and so have no reference to Levi as trolls and beastly Murray assume. Thus, the whole section 6:5 through 12 is to be regarded as a typical Levi-Yehuda passage. In a later treatment of the subject, however, he retracts this view, particularly in the light of evidence from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and accepts the view that verses 11b and 12 spoke originally about Levi. But he notes certain differences between this passage and the scroll, and judges that Christian influence can be detected here. In 6:8 also he sees evidence of a Christian redactor who claims that the Levitical priesthood will be succeeded by Christ, the high priest, in Hebrews 7:11. Okay? I want to stop and make a comment here. Okay. There are all types of groups that I would consider out on the edge. The flat earth people. Okay. I don't believe the flat earth. Okay. The 7-day Shabbat. Every seventh day is a Shabbat. Don't believe that. Okay. That each week is going to renew. And so the Shabbat is the seventh day of the week, but not necessarily the seventh day of the month. Okay. And so I see that as being very much anti-Torah. One of the things that we have all these people that are running around following the Qumran calendar. Okay. Why would you do that? Okay. First off, it not only deals with God instituted how the months were to be set up, and how that they were to be first off sanctified. He set a procedure, and he said, this is who will do this. And so you have to understand, people repeatedly reject the Sanhedrin, and that's something that you cannot do. That is a system that God instituted for understanding how we keep the commandments. And that has never gone away. It still remains the same today. And so what we have here is people arguing different concepts and accepting these to go with out of the Pseudepigrapha, out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I use the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, we use that extensively when working on the temple. Major with one of the most important scrolls is called the Temple Scroll, and it gives information, and it gives many things that have helped us to locate things. But just because it's in the Qumran scroll or the Temple Scroll does not mean that's the way it was. It gives us many, many things, like we were able to find the Gasion wall, a particular wall that went around the court of the priest. And it was It was mentioned in Josephus. It was mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And taking these two references, then we were able to find it in the Torah. We were able to find it in the Mishnah. We were able to find it in other places. So it is a very valuable tool, but it is not a tool that we say, they believe that, that's what everybody believed. These are going to be your splinter groups. These are your groups that are on the outside. And so you have to keep that in mind as you go. All right. So all right. The second passage, which according to Beasley Murray testifies to belief in a Levite Messiah in the Testament of Levi, chapter 18, verses 2 through 9. Now, I really like this one. This is going to be comprised from passages that we do have in the Tanakh. Then shall the Lord raise up a new priest, and to him all the words of the Lord shall be revealed, and he shall execute a righteous judgment upon the earth for a multitude of days. Now, everything except this first sentence, where he raises up a new priest, and to him all of the words of the Lord shall be revealed, I believe this is referring to the Nasi and is referring to the king descended from Judah, from David. He shall execute righteous judgment upon the earth for a multitude of days. His star shall arise in heaven as of a king, lighting up the light of knowledge as the sun of the day, as the sun today. He shall be magnified in the world. He shall shine forth as the sun on the earth, and he shall remove all darkness from under heaven, and there shall be peace in all the earth. And the glory of the Most High shall be uttered over him, and the spirit of understanding and sanctification shall rest upon him in the water. For he shall give the majesty of the Lord to his sons in truth forever, and there shall none succeed him for all generations forever. And in his priesthood the Gentiles shall be multiplied in knowledge upon the earth, and enlightened through the grace of the Lord. In his priesthood shall sin come to an end, and the lawless shall cease to do evil. Once more, Charles thinks that the writer had John Hyrcanus in mind, but there is no justification at all for this view. What we have here is an idealized picture, no doubt based on what the author had seen on the achievements of the Hasmonean house, but without specific reference to a Hasmonean Messiah, or indeed to any historical figure. As H. Rowley says, the functions assigned to the Messiah of Levi go beyond the achievements of the Hasmoneans. For it is possible that the author idealized a conception which was based on what had been done by the Hasmoneans, and thought of a coming priest who would overthrow all the forces of evil. Lagrange, Mowinkle, now Sigmund Mowinkle. I use one of his books frequently. It's called The Psalms in Israel's Worship. And but Sigmund Mowinkle, he came out of Scandinavia. He was in the early 1900s, and many things about Mowinkle's beliefs. I don't know these other people. Many things about Mowinkle's beliefs, such as that the Torah was not written by Moshe, that there was an older part, there was a part that was written at the time of Ezekiel and so forth, that it was being added to it, was being altered, that these things were being taken out. And I do not believe that at all. I believe that the Torah was given by Hashem through Moshe. And so I just want to have that out here, so that just because somebody is a noted scholar or a noted archaeologist doesn't necessarily make them right. Mowinkle and others argue that the Messianic references here are not concerned with any specific person who is to be acknowledged as Messiah, but rather with the founder of a dynasty. Okay, so here he's going the Hasmonean route. It is the dynasty, in this case, the Hasmonean house, which will collectively fulfill the function of the Messiah and will reveal in its succession of priest kings all those qualities which are elsewhere ascribed to the Davidic Messiah himself. Rowley disputes this, however, and argues that the Messianic functions here described are best understood as inerring in a person. They go beyond those functions which could be ascribed to the Hasmonean house, however idealized and in many respects corresponding to those of the ideal Davidic king who was conceived of as an individual in the thought of the prophets. Most scholars have followed R.H. Charles and seen certain Christian interpolations in this 18th chapter of the Testament of Levi. For example, the phrase "in the water." If you'll remember, that was in parentheses in verse 7. Whilst retaining the chapter as a whole, its originality, however, has more recently been veiled in question. Matthew Black, for example, expresses doubt about its Jewish origin and concedes that perhaps the whole chapter should be regarded as entirely Christian. M. de Jong has argued this position at greater length. His analysis of 18:9 through 9 leads 18:9 through chapter 9, I guess, leads him to conclude that as it stands, this passage is dependent on the New Testament and in several respects agrees with the Christology set forth in the Epistle to the Hebrews. It may, however, contain elements which derive from the Qumran sect or related group. There are certain correspondences between the Messianic figures of this chapter and that described in certain parts of the scrolls. But the redaction of the text has been so thorough that it's very difficult to separate the pre-Christian and possibly Essene elements. Let me mention all these groups were very Messianic. For the most part, they will present what we have in the prophets, what we have in the Torah, but there will always be differences, okay? And they, a lot of things that what you judge it against, and this will take some time, but what you judge it against is the Torah. The idea that the Christians, these would be Jews, these are Jewish writings, okay? That they came in and they changed this and put it to match other writings that say that you have in the New Testament. I think they're just going to be groups that were on the outside, and they have a lot of Messianic things within, okay? All right, so let's get back. And remember to be putting in your comments and your questions. This brief survey gives indication of how complicated and confused is the evidence concerning the Messianic hope. The Messianic hope expressed in the testaments of the 12 patriarchs. It seems likely, however, that the glories and achievements of the Hasmonean house has inspired at least some among people with the hope of Messiah from the tribe of Levi, in whom they saw many of those traits long associated with the tribe of Yehudah. Even if this were so, disillusionment would soon set in as the people witnessed the increasing secularization of the high priesthood. Inevitably, the old hope of the Davidic Messiah would begin once more to assert itself. For the emergence of the brand of the Messianic hope, there is ample evidence in the Apocalyptic literature. The Jewish literature, okay, now I'm going to stop here. We're going to go, the next part is on the Davidic Messiah. Now I want to show you, I don't have time to be able to go through this tonight, but this will be what we go through, and we'll do this next week. And so you can see there's quite a bit. It would take, we'd be in here for another hour. I want to have where we can go to the questions. Okay, so what we covered here is the ancient writings, where a group thought there was going to be a Messiah descended from David and another Messiah descended from Levi. Now, where you have the Messiah descended from Levi, they will tie that into the Nasi that sits in the temple. Okay. I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with that. But I wanted to put it out here so that it would raise questions, so that you would stop and think. And the more that you can think, the better that you are able to define a true messianic understanding of what is coming. Okay, we're always going to have questions. That won't stop. All right. Let me get to where we can. All right, get to the chats. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Richard Setzinger. Shalom from Greenwood, Arkansas. Purim Sameach. Very good. And they still are having Purim in Jerusalem. It started at sundown in Jerusalem, and we'll go through sundown tomorrow. Okay, and so shalom from everyone from Redlands, California, Virginia Anderson, Jeff Fallsburg, East Lansing, shalom. Okay, so Michigan. Okay, Beth Ann Pritchard, shalom, shalom from LaPorte, Texas. And Beth Ann, Debbie tried to call you back the other day, and hopefully we can connect up. Okay, Teresa Anderson again, shalom, everyone. Deb Galecta Heath, shalom from Wisconsin. And Teresa Anderson from California. Daryl Wade from Kansas. Shalom's from Carrie and Daryl Wade. Mike Fincher from Tucson, Arizona, originally a Montanian. Okay. Susan Rogers. Shalom, y'all, from West Texas. Susan, it's good to see you. Amy Shute. Amy, shalom, shalom. From Des Moines, Iowa. Lives in the city where my daughter lives. Okay. Shalom, everyone. Denise Perez 4 from Arizona. Tim Smalley from West Central Indiana. Edgar Ramos from Austin, Texas. Okay. Daryl Wade. We've been walking on his name all day. It's talking about Haman, putting Haman to wipe out the Amalekites. You know, I went over to Houston has a Holocaust museum, and a few years ago they renovated it. It really is a tremendous museum. If you come to Houston, you should go and see it. It's one of the best. The old museum, it was very good, but they had too much stuff for too small a facility. But when you walked in, the first display was a scroll. And the scroll was open in Hebrew, just enough that you could see one panel. And at the very top, in hand, it was either Shemot chapter 17 or Devarim chapter 25, the two places that were told to blot out the name of Amalek. And that was the passage that was there. Why? Because Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler, were called Hitler was called Haman. They were called the Amalekites. And in fact, Gila Trevich, till her mother died about 2 years ago, she would never refer to the Germans by the name German. She called them only the Amalekites because she was in one of their concentration camps, actually two of them. And it was a very bad experience. But yes, okay. All right. Janet Baxter Meadows, shalom from Georgia. And uh, Janet is a queen. I mean, she really is. Susan Otero 377, shalom Joe and to all here. I'm calling from Bakersfield, California. We actually had an RV and we were driving from Canada back to get home. We had gone to where we spoke in California. We spoke in California and Oregon and Washington and Vancouver, Canada. I got a call from my mother's doctor and saying that my mother had taken a turn for the worse, and we immediately started to head home. We got down, it was December, and we had a blowout on Christmas Eve at Bakersfield, California. And there was a RV camp right there called the Orange Grove. One of the best times that we ever had. We picked oranges till I don't know. It was amazing. All right. Uh, let's see. Among the yeah, I was going. All right. Brenda Kreitz. She says, oh, wait. Natalia, okay, shalom from, I never can pronounce this, from Mexico, okay? And always, we've been really praying for y'all with the trouble with the cartels, okay? So, and keep praying that all of that, that the cartels be dealt with, but the violence ends. Brenda Kreitz, I pray you had a joyous Purim. We read the Megillah on Monday night, and it was good. From Keith O'Loar from Detroit, and Keith, I think of you often and pray for you on your cancer challenges. Okay, Gabrielle, and people, I gotta take my hat off to Gabriel Gallegos. He helps me so much with getting this put together. I mean, tremendous. Carrie Wade, shaloms. All right. That's from the other half of Daryl. Uh, Talia Rango, shalom, everyone. Also from this is Natalia. Okay, so Teresa Reed Kraut from Chedick, Wisconsin. Shalom, Teresa. Okay. And Dan Solis from Plano, Texas. Dan's been a friend of ours for a long time. He and his wife are tremendous. Darren Anthony, David could still not eat the showbread as it's reserved for priests. Correct. Okay. Very good question. They made the showbread. It's supposed to only be eaten for priests. Okay. Now, let me get a book. I want to show you something. Hopefully I can find it quick. You'll bear with me. Right? What I wanted was a picture. I'll use this here. This is not the book I was looking for, but this will work. Okay. Let me, I'm gonna put this up here. This is going to be a picture of a picture of the Mishkan. Now, at the time that David came, here is your Mishkan right here, okay? Proper. This is the courtyard of the Mishkan. Inside here, people have this concept that people came in, like you see here. We have a man coming in, and for Israelites were allowed to come in for this, but this area is what is called Patak Ohel Moed, okay, before the tent of meeting. All of this is a sanctified area. These garments, so like you see these priests out here, they cannot be out there with those garments. You cannot take those garments outside. The bread, the showbread, is going to be deposited inside. And as I mentioned, they take the new bread and they put it on the table on Shabbat. On Shabbat, they remove the bread and they'll bring it out. It'll be set on a table right here. It's going to be put on a table here before they go in. Now, the only thing that a non-priest can go into this entire area for is for laying on of hands, for slaying, and for waving, to do the tenufa. David apparently came in. We can assume that he ate the bread inside here, but we cannot positively state that. What we do know is that the bread was made common. Okay, it had been sanctified. This is an exception. And you say, wait a second, how can they do that? You are allowed for the preservation of life. Now, as David comes, what we've always taught, what we've always understood, is that the bread was given to him because it was a matter of life or death. Okay, and so during the Holocaust, the rabbis told the people, "Eat the rodents, eat the rodents. You are not breaking the commandment by eating prohibited foods." Now, this is going to be an extreme instance of David being given the showbread, but hey, we know what happened because it's recorded in Scripture. And so, all I can present is what we have as the bottom line on everything. What do we know? And these are the things that we know. That David was given the bread and his men ate it. Okay? All right. So Darren, David did eat the bread. All right. So, and his men ate the bread. Okay. All right. All right. Eggers replying to Darren Anthony. Darren Anthony, the other way around. Barbara Lopez, preservation of life. GYPV, joining late, but I'm here. I'll be part of the rewatch crew. Okay. All right. Yeah. Very good. I'm going to guess this might be Gabrielle. But yes, reminding everybody to hit the like button, and it helps us. Again, Betty Brush from Wisconsin, Teresa Anderson. Hello between the two. All right. Bo Curtis. Arif Tov from Oklahoma. Maria Cruz. Shalom from Puerto Rico. Love Puerto Rico. Scott Paddock. Shalom from my temporary home away from cold northern Ohio and now in Prescott, Arizona. Oh, wow. Wow. Last time we went to Prescott, Jane came by here, and I got to tell you, that flashlight y'all gave me is the best flashlight I've ever seen in the world. Okay. Victor Suarez, Shalom More, Desiree Morton. Hey, Desiree from South Carolina. I thought you were here in Texas. Okay. Victoria Espelita Lucas, Shalom everyone. From Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And we've got some people going through Arkansas on the way here for Pesach. Spoke to them yesterday. They're going to stop to see hot springs on the way. Victor, Purim Sameach, and Purim Sameach to you, and try to catch up with you the next day or two. All right. Betty Brush is going to be 87 years old this summer. Well, Betty, you have been a blessing for all those 87 years and the 30 or so years that we've known you. All right, Kathy and Don Murray from Northern California. Yolanda Jose Blancas, we are living in the book of Esther 2026. Very good. Modern day Haman, look at the spelling of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Yes, very, very much so. There's only one there's only one God but Allah. Turn to him. Yeah, the turn to Hashem. Devor Blanca, Shalom from Panama, blessings. And Victoria Espelita Lucas has a question. Please explain how the instructions for the temple were acquired. Okay. There are two passages that we have primarily. The first passage is in Exodus chapter 25, verse 8 and 9. It's in the Parshat Torah. The first 7 verses, Hashem tells, and this is the first thing when Moshe goes up on the mountain, Hashem tells the people to bring their free will offerings, Torah, for the building of the Mishkan. And then in verse 8, he starts off and it says, build me a mikdash, build me a temple. And then the next part of the verse says, build the Mishkan according to the Tafnit. Now, generally that's going to be translated in English as pattern, plan, or form. But a better word for that is blueprint. Build the Mishkan according to the Tafnit and build all the vessels according to the Tafnit. And what we're told in the text is that basically Moshe was brought to heaven and he was shown the plans. He was given divine instruction. You might go, well, how could he remember all that? Well, that's a supernatural thing. And every vessel, every part of the construction was given to Moshe, not only for the Mishkan, but that first statement, build me a mikdash, build me a temple. Now, in First Chronicles, chapter 28, starting in verse 11, we're told that David was given the Tafnit, or the first temple, and it says by the Ruach, by the Spirit. And so let me read that part to you. All right. Then David gave his son Shlomo, Solomon, the tafnit for the vestibule. Okay, that's going to be the porch of the temple. Its houses, that's the Hakodesh and the Kodesh HaKodeshim, as well as the Taim around it, its treasuries, its upper chambers, its inner chambers, and the place of the mercy seat. Verse 11 deals with the temple building and the tafnit for all that he had by the Spirit. Literally in Hebrew, what it says is ruach, of the courts of the house of the Lord. So Hashem is set apart where each of the courts were, and all of these would be accompanied by halakot. Okay, who can go there? What can they do? And we have that listed for us in the Tractate of the Mishnah in Kelim, chapter 1. It starts in Mishnah 6 and goes to Mishnah 9. For all the course of the house, Lord, of all the chambers all around. So basically, it's talking about all of these buildings that surround it and so forth. Okay. And not only for the inner courtyard or the inner courtyards, but also for the outer courtyard. All right. And so, of the treasures of the house of God, the treasures for the dedicated things, also for the divisions of the Kohanim, in other words, and the Levites, then their rotation, who serves when, all of that was given divinely for all the work of the service of the house of the Lord. Okay, so the work of the service of the house of the Lord is going to be the services, the Shacharit service, the Minha service in the holy days, the Musaf for the additional service, the special festival services, which are found in 1 Chronicles 28, Numbers chapter 28 and 29. For all the articles of service in the house of the Lord, so all your vessels were given by blueprint. He gave gold by weight for things of gold, for the articles used in every kind of service, also silver for the articles of silver by weight, for all articles used in every kind of service, the weight for the lampstands of gold, the lamps of gold by weight for each lampstand and its lamps, for the lampstands of silver by weight, for the lampstands and its lamps, according to the use of each lampstand, and by weight. He gave gold for the tables of the showbread for each table, and silver for the tables of silver. Also pure gold for the forks, the basins, the pitchers of pure gold, and the golden bowls. He gave gold by weight for every bowl, and for the silver bowls, silver by weight for every bowl. Refined gold by weight for the altar of the incense, for the construction of the chariot, that's going to be the ark. That is the golden cherubim that spread their wings and overshadowed the ark of the covenant of the Lord. All this, said David, the Lord made me understand in writing by his hand upon me all the works of these plans of this tafnit. And it goes forward. Now, the second temple was built on the tafnit of the first. There are things that are added from the book of Ezekiel. They are seen as being a part of the original tafnit that was given to Moshe back at Mount Sinai in chapter 25 of Shemot, verse 8. So they are not things that the Jews added. They were a part of the original tafnit. The example of things that were added, for instance, the 4 courtyards in the 4 chambers on the side of the court of the women. And this is going to be spoken to us in the Tractate Migot of the Mishnah. And so one of the things that we're trying to discover is the tafnit of the last temple that was standing, that blueprint. And that's the third temple will be built upon that. All right. All right. So everyone, please be praying for Israel. By the way, one thing that I do need to mention is that we have the David Fund. The David Fund, this money, 100% of it goes to Israel. Will probably be doing an update on Israel with Gila Trevich, Roy Shaposhnik, in the next 2 days. A lot of this depends on Roy is a deputy brigade commander, and it's going to be according to when he's available. But one of the things that Israel needs, Israel does not have the economy that the United States has, doesn't have the population. And so the soldiers, they have basically, the reserves have been called up, the regular army, the reserves, and we are going to, as much as we can, help to outfit these soldiers with what they need. I'm not talking about the guns and the weapons. I'm talking about medical kits. I'm talking about all types of things. Right now, we're working on stretchers that can be used in the tanks to retrieve wounded. Now, you say, well, the fighting's all about missiles. It's right now they're going into Lebanon. There are foot soldiers on the ground in Lebanon. There will be more in Gaza. There is going to be conflict in Judea, Samaria. This war is not over. And if you go to JerusalemTempleStudy.com, and that will be to donate to the David Fund. And now is the time that you might want to consider doing that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to next week when we can talk about this further. Shalom, shalom.
nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Hacktivac Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada, 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro, para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom.
Ah.